Now that I hope you've gotten over the actual shock of the Supreme Court not taking up the Texas case, perhaps we can turn and look why they did that, what's really going on, what are the implications, and how do we proceed from here. This is The Beautiful Truth on the 13th of December 2020, and you're very welcome. It's Fintan Dunn reporting about your concerns about these people here and why they stayed silent, why we ended up with the case Texas took not going forward. The mainstream media, of course, is making the most of it, saying that the decision represents a comprehensive rebuke to those claiming widespread voter fraud or illegal changes to state election law cost Trump the election. Well, it's not a blow at all, because they didn't decide anything at all about the merits of the case. They merely said that Texas and the other states didn't have standing. What's standing? It's like this. You have neighbors, and you notice that over the last couple of days, there's been a lot of noise and arguments, the sound of things getting broken, people shouting at each other, and then you hear gunshots followed by silence. So you go to the local police station and you tell them about what just happened. And they say to you, so what's it to you? You say, I think I live next door. That's what it is to me. I've heard all this stuff. There's like crimes. You know what I mean? And they say, well, you didn't get shot, did you? You say, no. And they say, yeah, so what's it to you? Clearly, they don't want to investigate. Clearly, there's a good reason why. So what's the reason that the Supreme Court didn't want to do that? What's the reason that these justices of the Supreme Court who are on our side didn't come on our side? So let's drill down. There's been a bit of politics going on, and of course the pressure has been turned up on the Supreme Court. But when you get right down to it, there were good reasons and are good reasons why the Supreme Court declined so determinedly to get involved in this. And those reasons have to do with this. From Breitbart today, Sunday, Dems will win Georgia runoffs, 1.2 million absentee ballots requested, 85,000 of those with new voters. You see, what the Supreme Court was being asked to do was potentially bet the whole enchilada on this case, including the entire future of the United States. Why do I say that? Because the pile-in was really, in many ways, the last thing we needed by all these states coming in on the Texas side, because then that provoked a pile-in on the other side as states started to come in opposition. Now, that was providing a legal basis where this schism, states to states, was being turned into perhaps a defining issue for the future of the United States, and perhaps an issue upon which these states would schism from each other, thus dividing the United States in two. In whose interests would that be? Well, I think China will be quite happy, don't you? So is that a future that we should willingly embrace, one where we take that kind of risk? But even leaving aside that geopolitical risk, which the Chinese would love to turn the United States into a divided nation, each half now a shadow of its former self, and no longer a geopolitical threat, that would be a win. So great care was needed here. And of course, it's ridiculous to say that Trump had no standing. He had standing. However, Trump didn't take the case. It's going around everywhere. Who took the case was Texas. Trump came in support of that. But I don't think the Supreme Court has ruled on Trump's standing. And it's quite possible that down the line, Trump could stand. Look at something else which Trump tweeted in the last couple of days. On Friday, he tweeted, if the two senators from Georgia should lose, which will be a horrible thing for our country, I'm the only thing that stands between packing the court and preserving it. I will not, under any circumstances, pack the court. I suppose he was sending on Friday a message to the Supreme Court that he's on their side. But he's also pointing out a political reality that if Georgia was to go the wrong way, Trump would be the only thing standing between the Supreme Court and its own oblivion. So there's a lot of high stakes here. And I think the Supreme Court said, not this kind of case, not right now, not like this, not with a schism down the middle of the country, and no. And really nobody came on board with that. Alito and Roberts, who said they would allow the suit to be filed by Texas, saying that, we can't just, like a cop saying, well, look, I'll have to just report this in the logbook when you go in to report all the noise next door. Okay, I'll report this. That was their position. But having reported it, they weren't going to do anything. So you really didn't have a 7-2. You had a 9-0 from the Supreme Court. And I think that 9-0 was because of the nature of the case. Now, had they taken the case, suppose they wanted, the reason I said you'd get a decision Friday was that I felt if they were going to stop this thing, they would stop it Friday before it got ahead of steam. If they were going to take it, they would probably take it Friday for the same reasons. And I think they just knocked it on the head on Friday deliberately in the way they did. Had they wanted to just end it, then you would have a lot of legitimate questions to ask. Suppose they accepted that the suit came from Texas and the other states had said, fine, we'll accept that. And now we're going to immediately rule on it, summarily, which means without really getting into it any further, yeah, we've read your stuff, forget about it, denied. That would have been the end. But that's not what they did. They said, you don't have standing to Texas, which is legally ridiculous. Texas does have standing. You can't. The Supreme Court's very function is to arbitrate these disputes between states. But by saying you don't have standing, and there was an element of legal logic to it, which is that this is in another state, but these kinds of disputes they should obviously have looked at. But it gave them a mechanism to evade saying no and to evade having to deal with the case. So they haven't said no at all. And I don't believe that Trump's standing is exhausted. I believe that Trump could potentially file a case in the Supreme Court after the 5th of Jan and 6th of January, sometime in the period in the new year before, say, about the 13th or so. It would need to be noticeably in advance of the swearing in on the 20th in order for there to be a time to process a legal case. But I don't see anything to stop Trump coming forward, because Trump is the one who's standing. You know what I mean? And Trump has standing. So he is, if you like, the owner of the property next door where all this shooting and noise has come from. And so it's an entirely different matter if he walks into the police station. You see what I mean? He is the directly affected complainant. And I think if there is, and this is another problem which the Supreme Court case had, is that there wasn't a great deal of evidence trashed out in courts already. So the Supreme Court was concerned about being turned into a show trial place where all of these issues would have to be hammered out in exhaustive detail before the Supreme Court, that the evidentiary basis would have to be established there. They didn't like the idea of that. So some delay gives us opportunity, and this always was a multiple track strategy being pursued, including pursued with the possibility that the Supreme Court would not go the way as we've just seen. So this is being fought in individual jurisdictions. Cases are being advanced so they can be appealed later. And I think it's still possible that Trump is going to be able to bring a case to the Supreme Court and cite any progress we make in the weeks ahead. A week, they say, is a long time in politics. And 4 weeks is a very long time, particularly as they're already throwing Joe Biden under the bus. I don't know if you've noticed. But, when you see an article in Politico, you can take it that you're talking to what's going on really on the inside when you see manifestations like an article in Politico saying that Joe Biden's under investigation, multiple, etc. Evidence is accumulating, concerns that it could destabilize the Biden presidency, etc. Well, yeah, Kamala Harris was probably their pick all along. And Bill Barr knew about the investigations into Joe Biden and Hunter Biden way back, and said nothing about it, and didn't make any declaration with regard to those issues ahead of the election, which perhaps he had a responsibility to do. So one of the big problems as well has been that we haven't had FBI and Justice Department actions which would give us the perp walks, the equipment seizures, and all the other things we need in order to establish this was a stolen election. There are indications that Trump may be prepared to start playing some hardball. Yesterday, he retweeted this by Todd Starnes, who had tweeted, "At this point, at real Donald Trump should declassify everything. And Trump, retweeting it, said, I have been doing this. I agree. I wonder exactly how much is he prepared to declassify? Is he prepared to take action against Barr? Because we are seeing so. But nevertheless, that could be counterproductive. This is chess moves, and it requires carefully thought out moves, which are done for strategic and tactical reasons and not for emotional reasons. And but indications there that Trump is thinking of upping the ante on this, and he thinks he knows exactly what happened.
So it was a rigged election. It was really a sham and a shame.
When you look at this fight, though, you have 77% of Trump supporters who believe you won the election, according to a Fox poll.
I've heard actually much higher numbers than that.
There's a rally right now in Washington for that. Do you worry about the country being divided as if it goes to inauguration and they still feel that way and you still feel that way?
No, I worry about the country having an illegitimate president. That's what I worry about. A president that lost, and lost badly. This wasn't like a close election. You look at Georgia. We won Georgia big. We won Pennsylvania big. We won Wisconsin big. We won.
Yeah, Trump's right. The number is higher than 77% of Republicans. I think at this stage now, there's north of about 100 million people in the United States who pretty much know this was stolen. And the people themselves, they know what they think about this. This has lit a flame. Watch. Yeah, this is lit a flame. It's almost a religious fervor with which people have grasped onto this and realized the implications of all this. And in a way, the Supreme Court failing to go our way, etc., is a wake-up call, and will only reinforce and intensify that certainty that this is a do-or-die struggle which they are engaged in now, and in many ways it is. So the reality of all that has come home, and as we move forward, it's going to get increasingly more difficult to prevent more and more people from realizing such an obvious deal. Over the next few weeks, we're going to see the future of the United States play out. And it's a future which this man believes in. Donald J. Trump versus the swamp in all its evil manifestations. It's good that we've seen that. You see, it wasn't never about that up until now. It was always about like Donald J. Trump and Trump, MAGA, and a new political dynamic. Now people have had the wool pulled off their eyes. Now people have seen that what these people are capable of, that democracy itself means nothing to them. So it's good that those illusions have been shattered. And it certainly ain't over. I'll be back with more on that in the week and weeks ahead, and I do hope you can join me for it. But in the meantime, this has been Fintan Dunne reporting.
I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world, there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world. Millions of despairing men, women, and little children. Victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us just fight to free the world. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite!